And there's no point in adding the right talent without the right leadership.
We're more than servers. Feel the energy coursing through your veins.
Which is why Applebee's brought in Coach Dan Campbell to take the coveted role of assistant shift manager.
We're going to be working 7 days a week. But yeah, we're about to turn this thing up.
Like Dan Campbell joining Applebee's, I'm back. And I'm joining forces with Simply Bitcoin. And yeah, we're going to be working 7 days a week, but we're going to turn this thing up. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Simply Signal with Dante. It's the best time of the year. We got primetime matches at the US Open, football is back, and no, I'm not talking about the Premier League. I'm talking about real football. The kind of football that can deliver moments like this.
He's rushed four. Lamar trying to make magic happen. Throw it end zone. Right way, 2 feet down. Yes! Touchdown!
I mean, sitting on the couch for way too long, coming up with crappy fantasy names like Tua, Leggett, To Quit. It just feels right. And you know what also feels right? Me making Bitcoin videos again. I missed you guys. I missed this chair, and I missed talking about Bitcoin and making it simple for people. So, teaming with Simply Bitcoin just made sense. And I'm going to help you cut out all of the noise and just bring signal, just like the name of the show. If you haven't already done so, smash that subscribe button. All right, really quick. One thing for housekeeping, just to give you guys the format that we're going to be doing at the beginning. We're going to be doing videos twice a week. One on Friday, which is a recap of the week, so you don't have to spend hours of time on Twitter figuring out everything that's going on. And we're going to do another episode on Tuesdays. This one is going to be more thematic, helping you break down complex topics and understanding how Bitcoin is shaping the future and what it means for you specifically. So, twice a week is where we're starting at, and we hope to do more, but that's going to be determined mostly by you guys, what you need and what you want. Today's episode will be a mix of a Friday recap, but also a thematic topic, just to give you guys a flavor of the types of things that I'm going to be talking about on Simply Signal. Let's get into it. The traditional stock market continued its extremely volatile and chaotic month, with the VIX being up 38% in a single day this week. This marks the 25th highest one-day increase ever for the VIX. And don't forget, about a month ago exactly, on August 5th, it had its second highest day ever, at over a 64% increase in a single day. The market is clearly trying to tell us something. And continuing with this theme, the S&P 500 index got absolutely destroyed this week, falling over 2% for one of its worst months in recent history. We all know that it's bad in September, but it's not this bad. Stocks like the Magnificent Seven shed over $1 trillion in market cap on Monday alone this week. But hey, what's a trillion these days between us friends? And you know what? It's not just the Magnificent Seven or the high-flying stocks. It's stocks that represent everyday people like you and me, like Dollar Tree and Dollar General, which were down over 25% in a single day this week, citing material weakness in the labor market and in the low income and middle class segments that are their typical shoppers. It's ironic that their names even have dollar in them. The only thing that you can get at the dollar store for $1 these days is Arizona tea. It's like the stock market itself is trying to tell us that the dollar is worthless. Speaking of the dollar, something that's relevant this week that I saw just goes to show you how worthless the dollar is actually becoming. When TJ has the same career earnings as MJ, no shade to TJ McConnell. He's here in Indianapolis. We love him here in our city. But is it that TJ is as valuable as MJ, or is it the currency that they're paid in becoming worth that much less? People have all sorts of explanations around what's happening, all sorts of crazy, complex things. And I'm not the smartest guy, so I'm going to break it down real simple for all the people in the back, like me. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. Before COVID, the government had interest expense payments of $1 billion per day. During COVID, that number shot up to $2 billion of interest expense per day. And you know where we're at today? $3 billion of interest expense per day being generated from all of the debt that the US government has currently. We're going to be adding $1 trillion in debt every single year. You see? 1, 2, 3. The numbers are so large now It's actually ludicrous. Like Ludacris's arms and Air Force Ones at the opening pitch of the Braves game earlier this week. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And so there's a camp of people saying that the next decade is going to look something like the 1970s. There's a camp of people that will say it'll look more like the 1940s. Well, I think that you're both right because they both have the same outcome. You can find charts from both eras that confirm your bias. Both eras had high interest rates and structurally high inflation. The difference between the two regimes were that one had different monetary policies and one had fiscal policies. In the 1940s, fiscal policies drove all sorts of rebuilding, manufacturing, and industry here in the United States, which is totally possible with both administrations, Harris, Biden, Trump, both saying that we want to bring jobs back to America and stop offshoring. So the 1940s is completely within the realm of possibility. 1970s, we all know that Jerome Powell's favorite hero in policy history is Paul Volcker. And so we could be implementing a tightening sort of regime with structurally high inflation. Regardless of what you believe or what you think, the right decision to make was to simply buy and hold hard assets. And you guys know what my recommendation is: Bitcoin. Holding treasuries or cash got you absolutely destroyed in real terms. You might have been earning a return of 6, 7, 8%, but the cost of prices and the cost of living was going up faster than that, meaning that you actually lost money. But Bitcoin represents something that we've never seen before. It maximizes all of the good properties about gold, but does so in a digital and exponential way. It's sort of like Mondo Duplantis, arguably the greatest track athlete of all time, who, just for fun, raced the 400-meter record holder and beat him in a 100-meter dash. Bitcoin is sort of like that, in that it's been the best performing asset 10 out of the last 13 years in the world. And the way that it looks this year, it looks like it's going to continue to be the best performing asset. So 11 out of the last 14 years, it's been the best performing asset. But the craziest part is, this is the best risk-adjusted time to be getting into Bitcoin. As you can see here in this chart from my friend Joe Consorti, congrats by the way on the new job, Joe. Bitcoin is 4 to 6 times less volatile than it was even just a few years ago. But the upside and exponential characteristics of it are as good as ever. And for all of the people that like to compare Bitcoin to stocks, Bitcoin actually represents as much or less risk than the top stocks today. It's less volatile than Meta, NVIDIA, and Tesla. So in layman's terms, you can buy a great asset with good risk qualities at a great price as Bitcoin continues to hover around 58K. So, punchline from whatever you think about the next decade, the right thing to do was to simply hold hard assets. And the hardest asset in the world right now is Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million. And you know who I think knows what's going on and knows that Jerome Powell is backed into a corner and the right response is to simply hold and buy hard assets? Well, it's BRICS and Vladimir Putin, who are increasing their daily purchase of gold from about $12 million to $90 million per day through October 4th. Powell is completely backed into a corner. And so regardless of whether he's going to be Greenspan or whether he's going to be Volcker, the outcome is the same. The bazooka, whether it's monetary bazooka or a fiscal bazooka from the US government, is coming out. And you know what that means? Asset prices will rip. And so, like I mentioned, I'm going to be providing a little bit of a thematic topic today, which gets a little bit to the title of the video, Bitcoin being the GPU of money. And I got this idea from looking at the story of NVIDIA, whose stock was down 9% in a single day this week. But it got me thinking about NVIDIA and its importance in the world. I believe that in fiat terms, NVIDIA is the most important brand, organization, and company in the world today. It's the tail wagging the entire market. It has a $2.6 trillion market cap, trailing only Microsoft and Apple as the most valuable companies in the world. The reason that I think NVIDIA is the most important technology moving forward, it's because it's the protocol and the platform upon which all future intelligence is being written on top of. So, you know what I think is going to be powering this intelligence and the economics behind this intelligence, which is significantly bigger than the hardware and applications itself. Bitcoin. I truly believe that Bitcoin will have a price between $10 million to $25 million per coin in the next 25 years. Let me break it down. You have to understand that the total amount of software, chips, hardware that are programmed into this piece of technology here represent $8 trillion in market cap. And every single year, when you think about the electricity and the apps that I buy and my time and my energy that I put into this, you can provide a cost of about $2,000 to $2,500 a year that I'm putting into this single device. But the amount of payments, the amount of money in exchange that flows through this device is orders of magnitude larger. We're not talking about 2,500 bucks. We're talking about 200,000 bucks, 25,000 bucks. The market cap of money is much bigger than the market cap of stocks. People don't understand the truly fundamental impact that Bitcoin is going to have and its true market potential.
The world is going to produce an enormous amount of tokens. Now, these tokens are going to be produced in new types of data centers. We call them AI factories. Back in the last industrial revolution, water comes into a machine. You light the water on fire, right? Turn it into steam, and then it turns into electrons. Atoms come in, electrons go out. In this new industrial revolution, electrons come in and floating point numbers come out. And just like the last industrial revolution, nobody understood why these electricity is so valuable and is now sold, right, marketed kilowatt hours, per dollar. And so now we have, million tokens per dollar. And so that same logic is as incomprehensible to a lot of people as the last industrial revolution, but it's going to be completely normal in the next 10 years.
People underestimate exponential growth in technologies in a major way in the first place. And before you think I'm crazy with a $10 million per Bitcoin price, Michael Saylor said it first, so I'm allowed to do it now.
The price of Bitcoin is going to go up to $10 million coin.
I'm going to be doing a series on Bitcoin in the AI exponential age. But for today's comparison and how I'm sort of thinking about this pricing, I want to give us a simple comparison based upon NVIDIA and Intel. At today's valuation, NVIDIA is roughly 30 times larger than Intel, whose market cap is $85 billion compared to $2.6 trillion for NVIDIA. It's funny, when you go back to 1999, Intel was worth $275 billion, and NVIDIA was just going public at $12 a share, which represented about $550 million market cap. Nobody could have guessed that this would have been the case in 1999. Intel was probably the most important and dominant company in the world. They literally put silicon in Silicon Valley. Andy Grove, Bob Noyce, Gordon Moore were the titans of the entire industry, and the CPU paved the way for the computer revolution that we experience today. When you think about the design of a CPU, the CPU is designed to perform a single task and then move linearly to another task. But in the world of AI and gaming, the CPU doesn't stand a chance to the more streamlined and more complex processing capabilities of parallel processing, which comes from the GPU. Jensen Huang, the founder of NVIDIA, bet his entire company on what he calls a $0 billion market, a massive industry that, if solved, could change the world. GPUs break a task into a bunch of smaller tasks and assign those smaller tasks to a bunch of smaller chips, allowing it to perform more tasks and compute at a higher scale and a higher rate of throughput than a CPU ever could. The GPU was just a combination of older concepts and technologies combined in a new way that the CPU couldn't compete with. Everyone knows Moore's Law. Well, Jensen Huang said that Moore's Law would be dead in 2013. No one believed him. What he understood and what he built their competitive advantage around was not only the ability of performing more tasks with GPUs versus CPUs, but understanding that the world would be developed with software written on top of these small chips. His CUDA software allows developers and programmers to actually control the behavior of the chips themselves. So what does this have to do with Bitcoin? Well, for the same reasons that NVIDIA is worth 30 times more than Intel, Bitcoin is going to be worth 30 times more than gold. This is how you get to a simplified price of $10 million per coin in the next 25 years. If you 30x the market cap of gold, which is roughly $17 trillion, you get a $510 trillion valuation. But if you're being conservative and you want to take the difference between Intel's price at its height at $275 billion and it's priced now at $85 billion, which is roughly 30%, and apply that to gold, that puts gold's valuation at $5.27 trillion. So if you 30x from there, you still get a $150 trillion asset. In the same way that CPUs held power in the old computing revolution and GPUs hold the power in the new AI and digital revolution, gold had its power and its value in an analog world. Bitcoin is a perfectly digitally scarce asset prepared to be the store of value of the future in a digital world. When comparing the cost of maintaining, securing, and running your gold node compared to the cost of maintaining, running, and securing your 12 words in Bitcoin, it's not even close. Bitcoin is simply a more cost-effective, efficient, and powerful global store of value for the future generations. It can process and settle transactions at the speed of light, and like the CUDA platform, there are all sorts of innovations like the Lightning Network that are being built on top of Bitcoin that are going to allow it to scale in layers. And sort of like NVIDIA in the GPU, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They combined old technologies in a new way. Bitcoin takes the qualities of sound money, scarcity, portability, divisibility, fungibility, and durability, and it simply perfected them for the digital age with game theory, proof of work, cryptography, and a headless architecture. And what do I mean by headless? Well, I mean that the founder of the technology and the protocol itself walked away in order that it would survive and not be shut down by government entities. NVIDIA started with a single purpose, to make graphics processing better for gamers, but it is now expanded to be the underlying foundation and layer that powers intelligence and data centers globally. Bitcoin started as a peer-to-peer network that allowed multiple parties to maintain consensus and exchange value without a central party. But as we see, and we continue to see in an exponential fashion, it is becoming the underlying asset in currency to power exchange and monetary value in the world. And as we can see, it's growing exponentially. And it's not just a peer-to-peer network. It is a global store of value. NVIDIA owns 50 to 75% of the data center market, and that lead is continuing to grow. Similarly, Bitcoin is positioned as the only proof of work crypto asset out there in the world that people can trust, and its market share in 2022 was 38%, and it's grown to 55% in just 2 years. Gold will never change and had its place, and it was valuable for a time. But how much value will it have moving forward? My guess is that the people who dismissed NVIDIA and exponential technology in 1999 wish that they hadn't. And in the same way, the gold bugs that are writing Bitcoin off as beanie baby technology are going to wish in 25 years that they had invested in the asset class. Like NVIDIA to Intel, I believe Bitcoin will have a 30x premium to gold's market cap in 25 years. What do you think? This little clip here will give us a sneak peek and a preview into the larger series that I'm going to be doing around Bitcoin and AI in an exponential age.
If you're not engaging AI actively and aggressively, you're doing it wrong. You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who uses AI. Your company is not going to go out of business because of AI. Your company is going to go out of business because another company used AI. There's no question about that.
Well, let's conclude for the day. For those of you who don't know me, you know that I'm an advocate for having real relationships and being in real community with real people. In fact, later today, I'm leaving for Lake Lemon to have a weekend getaway with 40 men where we're going to talk about how we're utilizing our time, our treasure, and our talents to impact our city and our community here in Indianapolis. Real community is an antidote for loneliness in a digital and AI world, and I believe that we all deserve it. That's one of the reasons why I've built Columbus, the first online digital community in the Bitcoin space. I want to provide people with real, tangible advice and expertise in the Bitcoin space in a way that's hard to get on LinkedIn and hard to get on Twitter. And I also want to provide real community. If you're interested in learning more about Columbus, go to joincolumbus.com and subscribe to one of the tiers, Adventurer, Explorer, or Navigator. One of my main goals is to help people understand Bitcoin simply. And so every episode, I want to leave us with a thoughtful doodle about Bitcoin to help you understand it in a better way. Bitcoin is an asset that once you see it, you can't unsee it. It starts to pervade your thoughts, that you had about relationships in family, in monetary policy, in economics, in even political decisions. Bitcoin is sort of like a mind virus that once it gets in, it's hard to get out. Go get into some real community this weekend. I'm Dante Cook with Simply Signal, signing out.